Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing something different here. It's a CPU, and this is the beastly Ryzen 9 9950X 3D. We're gonna be testing it in 15 games and a couple of benchmarks, and well, let's start by going over its specs. And we're looking at 16 Zen 5 cores with 32 threads, of which 8 of them have access to 3D cache and the other 8 cores don't. So it's a similar configuration to the Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, which also had one CCD with 3D cache and the other one without it. I'd like to have seen 3D cache in all of the cores, you know, that would be something different, but hey, you can't have everything. At least not yet. It also has a max boost clock of 5.7 GHz, which is pretty insane considering the 9800X 3D went up to 5.2 GHz, but the 5.7 GHz boost clock is only achievable on the CCD without the 3D cache. The other one, with the 3D cache, boosts up to 5.5, 5.6 GHz sometimes. It's actually 5.55. It also has a 170 watt TDP, although I've seen it running at 200 watts in multi-core intensive workloads, like for example Cinebench 2024, which is running right now on screen. But then, while gaming, it usually stays pretty close to 100 watts, as we'll see later in this video. So this CPU is actually pretty efficient, guys, and it scored really high in all of the benchmarks that I threw on it. It's really amazing, both in terms of single and multi-core performance, as you can see. So a great option if you need beastly multi-core performance for work, and then the 3D cache for high refresh rate gaming. However, due to how Windows handles this CPU and due to the latency between the CCDs, this CPU takes a bit of a hit in terms of gaming performance compared to the 9800X 3D, which only has one CCD with 3D cache. Not that it matters too much, it's still a really fast CPU even for gaming, of course, but if you're just gaming and not doing content creation and stuff like that, there's no reason to spend the $699 MSRP on this CPU, since you can get the 9800X 3D for cheaper. But again, if you want the best of both worlds in a single CPU, this is it. As for the test system, I'll be using a Gigabyte X870E Aorus master motherboard, 32 GB of DDR5 6000 MHz RAM CL28, a Nox Hummer 360mm AIO, and an RTX 5090, as well as the Samsung SSD, the 990, or whatever it's called. Whatever, yes. Let's play some games now and test the gaming performance of this Ryzen 9. Shall we? And first up we got Counter-Strike 2. We're playing at 1080p utilizing the competitive settings, and this low resolution and low settings is so we are CPU bound all of the time. And guys, I will bring up something new here today. Wait, how are you not dead? I hit his leg, actually. And that is the overlay from FPS monitoring. You can see the single-core CPU utilizations as well as frequencies, and whether or not the game is utilizing the second CCD without the 3D cache. Seems like Counter-Strike is definitely utilizing the CCD with the 3D cache alone, and that's why we see the usages there on the first 8 threads or 16 threads of the CPU, actually, yes, 8 cores. That's it. All right, more people joined in already, as you can see on the top scoreboard, and yeah, now the FPS are a little bit lower, getting into the 500s, but I mean, this is like next level, you know. The frequency is a little bit higher than my 9800X 3D, 9800X 3D. I concentrate. No! Okay, no, please! Please don't kill me! Please don't! I needed to reload! It's all good, guys, but yeah, that frequency change is definitely making it slightly, ever so slightly faster, I guess. Obviously, the difference between... Nice shot, dude. The difference between the 98 and 9950X 3D... It's not really that huge for gaming. It's not like you're gonna notice it, honestly. Both CPUs are extremely fast, and if you're doing gaming alone, I guess the 98 is going to be a little bit better from what I'm seeing here, at least in Counter-Strike, you know, for competitive shooters. There we go, my gosh, you can see everything, even though this is only 144 Hz because of the capture card that I'm utilizing here. It's still buttery smooth, and obviously on like a 500 Hz monitor this would be amazing because we're getting 500 FPS average or so. It's really awesome. Okay. No, no. Okay. Dude, these second deagle shots, the follow-ups are just amazing. Hey, come on. Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We got this. We got it. I need to heal myself, though. And let's continue. Reload the deagle, I guess. Hey. Okay, that wasn't my kill. I only have one bullet on the AWP, but that's enough, obviously. Yeah. Wait a second. Wait a second. No, not from... Ah. Come on. Can I get 80 kills? Can I get 80 kills? I think so. There we go. 81. Oh, nice. We already had 80 kills. Okay, there it is. Oh, yes. This is awesome, dude. Anyway, 911 points, 87 kills. Do I need to say anything else? This is perfect. Okay, now that we've completely wrecked everyone in that server, let's run that benchmark run that I was telling you about. And as you can see, 700 plus frames per second. This is crazy. It's absolutely insane. We're still fully CPU bound, so what we're seeing here is completely the CPU performance in this title, you know. But yeah, we can see smoke effects and everything. Those are more GPU intensive, as I told you. So if you're CPU bound, they're not going to be lowering your FPS, thankfully. That's nice to see. And I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna let it run, I guess. The chicken, there's roasted chicken there. What? I didn't know it did that. That's so interesting. All right. 800. Holy, it's closing in at 900 FPS, by the way. Look at that, look at that. Can it reach? Oh, so close. But see, this is still pretty CPU intensive. There are lots of bots, just NPCs running around, you know. So that will tax the CPU a little bit. And I guess in competitive, again, you should expect around the same FPS. So 750 almost on average and 249 1% lows. We're going to see the results from the actual test right now. And it gave us 754 average and 271% lows. It's crazy, guys. I mean, are there even 750 hertz monitors? Now, even though that was already a buttery smooth and amazing experience, there is something that hindered our performance, and that is the extra cores that weren't really being utilized. They actually dragged down the performance a little bit, and if you end up disabling half of the cores, or just keeping the CCD with the 3DV cache enabled right here, you can disable them in the BIOS, by the way. It's a bit tedious, and I don't think a lot of people with this CPU will actually be doing this, but it does make a bit of a difference. And to showcase that difference, let's start counting our FPS here in this benchmark run again. I'm not going to play the games today with half of the cores disabled, because that's not the normal configuration of the CPU, but I'll still show you guys some results from half of the cores disabled, so only the 3DV cache cores, which are also much closer to what you'd get with the 9800X 3D. So even though we have 16 cores here in 32 threads, even though in theory, since the game is actually utilizing the 3DV cache cores only and the other ones are just sleeping a little bit, it would be faster, but it kind of isn't. Alright, as you can see, the averages so far are actually way higher than they were before, and right near the end of the benchmark run, it actually tops at 1003 FPS, where previously it would go to like 900 or so. And the results are in, as you can see, we got 813 FPS average and 284 1% low, so quite a bit of an increase there. It doesn't really matter. It's still going to be an amazing experience either way. But yeah, there is a little bit of a drop still by having 8 cores with 3DV cache and 8 cores without 3DV cache. And let's play a AAA title now, Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p resolution, utilizing the ultra ray tracing settings, but without any upscaling. So this is native 1080p with ultra RT. And here we have it, guys. I can't wait to kill Bob. Oh yes, let's start counting our FPS, and it seems like it's going to be a very smooth, high refresh rate experience, although it could be higher refresh rate, but we'll get there, okay? Over here we're getting like 115 to 125 frames per second most of the time. It's really smooth. GPU utilization is between 70 and 90% all of the time, so it's fully CPU bound at the moment. And it is a great experience, no doubt about it. Ray tracing is extremely intensive on the CPU side of things as well as on the GPU side of things. And it's great that we can have 120 FPS average with 1% lows at 90 with native resolution, native frames as well. No need to utilize frame generation to achieve that higher refresh rate in Cyberpunk with a CPU like this. Although over here in Bob's roundabout, things are starting to drop a little bit. Goodbye, Bob! That's a beautiful Bob kill. It was instant as well. Very nice indeed. Yeah, around here, things are starting to dip down into the 90s at times. Not that it matters, guys. Once again, it is very smooth of an experience. Zero stutters and so on. But yeah, it does dip down into the 90s sometimes. As you can see, once again, drop to like 93. Also, if you take a look at the core utilizations, you can see that two of the cores on the non-3D cached CCD1, they're actually being utilized quite a lot. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So there's that. A little bit of a different behavior to what we saw in Counter-Strike, I think. And spoiler alert, it does actually drop your FPS a little bit by having that second CCD enabled. So if you were to utilize 9800X 3D, for example, or this CPU with half of its cores disabled, it would perform around 10% faster, as I'm about to show to you guys in just a little bit. But obviously no one wants to dive into their BIOS settings every single time they want to play games and then re-dive into it and re-enable all of the cores for work activities and so on. So yeah, if you end up buying this CPU, I think you'll just leave it like this, and it still performs extremely well, of course. You still have that frame generation if you want even higher FPS and stuff like that, of course, and it works really, really well. But again, if you're just gaming, 9800X 3D is the way to go, at least in Cyberpunk. And well, now we're here with only the 8 cores with 3D cache enabled. You can see that GPU utilization is a little bit higher, and the FPS are also a little bit higher. I'm not testing like the built-in benchmark because I don't like it, and when the FPS drop the most in this title is when you're driving around, and that doesn't happen in the benchmark run. So yeah, here we are. But you can see it's not dropping into the teens or 1-teens basically. It's keeping it up at 120, at least here in the first section of the benchmark run consistently. And here near Bob's roundabout, goodbye Bob! You stink of junk food. Are you serious? That's actually kind of true. Anyway, it doesn't, or it shouldn't drop into the 90s anymore. At 99 right there, but it did drop into like the... Wait, what the... right. It did drop to like 95 previously, and here, yeah, it's definitely like around 5 to 10% faster once again. But nobody will actually do this, I think, unless you want to overpay for a 32-threaded CPU just to disable half of the cores and make it slightly faster than 9800X 3D. That's actually what I ended up doing with the 7950X 3D, but I also rendered with that PC, so yeah. Now I got Call of Duty Warzone right here at 1080p resolution, unlimited FPS of course, utilizing the Ultra preset with NIS native just for sharpening, okay? And I disabled depth of field. Holy, look at that. 300 FPS here in the intro cutscene. It is actually being rendered in the game, so pretty impressive stuff. Oh well, lots of people dropping in here, so I guess I'm just gonna follow them around to get completely wrecked in just a little bit, probably. Okay, let's start counting our FPS now that we're in the ground and try to get some kills, I guess. Okay, and some loot as well, very important. Armor packs and stuff. So, in terms of FPS, it is actually a pretty fast experience, but the 1% lows aren't that amazing. That's because of the nature of Call of Duty Warzone, my friends. In some seasons, it is buttery smooth. In other seasons, it has those little tiny frame time spikes that we are seeing here in the frame time graph, and they lower our 1% lows. It's still a pretty good experience, obviously, and a high refresh rate one, even though it could be a little bit better, guys. What are you doing, dude? Thanks for the kill. Also, guys, in terms of the FPS with half of the cores disabled, so only the 3D cache cores enabled, you can see, by the way, that right now it is utilizing quite a few more cores on the non-3D cache CCD. So you see Core 9, Core 10, and Core 12 there on the right, heavily utilized, you know, going into the red sometimes. Pretty interesting. So the game can definitely utilize a lot of cores and threads, but the fact that it is using the non-3D cache cores means there's some performance to be had once again if you disable the second CCD. I'm not able to completely replicate what we're doing here. This is a multiplayer shooter, of course, but I did take a little clip on top of one of the hills looking at that building over there. You know, that blue thing. And I saw 200 FPS with all of the cores enabled and 220 to 240 FPS with the second CCD disabled. So quite a bit of performance there to be had, 10 to 20%. But still, guys, aside from those 1% lows not being the best because the game is broken, it is a very good experience anyways. 200 FPS, it's ultra settings. There's room for improvement if you play on low settings, for example. And obviously, this CPU is a beast still. Not as fast as 9800X 3D in this particular title, once again, but still an amazing little beast. Now we got another competitive shooter, the finals at 1080p using DLAA, static ray tracing, and low settings. And, oh boy, oh my goodness. Okay, I almost fell there. Jesus. Alright, let's go, guys. Run around here for a little bit. We're getting 250-ish FPS. 250 plus, I guess. That's really solid, obviously. Let's go over here. Oi, hello there, kind sir. Goodbye. Oh, yeah. Sigma Shrek. We just killed Sigma Shrek. That's so awesome, actually. Great name there, guys. Come on. Alright, another one down. There's that guy over there just chilling with his pistol. Can we? I can't take him out like this. Wait a second. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. No. All right. Wait a second. I'm gonna go with this thing. Throw it out there. Yes. There we go. I got him. It's hard to believe that this is a UE5 title, right? Like, come on. No, I'm gonna die now. No, I'm not. He got scared. I'm actually gonna go up there. Oh, yes. Come over here. Come to daddy. Oh, yeah. This game is very CPU intensive indeed. So it's very hard to run if you have something like a 12600K, for example, which you look at that CPU and think, yeah, that CPU surely can play the finals absolutely fine. You'd only be getting like 120 FPS. Kind of crazy. Or 13600K, I think. Yeah, I had that one, and I also had 130 FPS or something. Also, when I had the 7950X 3D as my main CPU, this was one of the games that made me disable half of the cores. Because there is huge, or at least there were huge gains to be had in this particular oh my, okay, no, okay. Well, we did pretty well, right? 9 kills so far. But even though there is some performance to be had here, the 9950X 3D CPU still does an awesome job, even with all of the cores. Like 255 FPS average, 186 1% lows. Those 1% lows are so awesome. Now we're in the practice range, guys, with all of the cores enabled right here, getting 350 to 360 FPS most of the time, as you can see. This is just for a little comparison. It's a multiplayer shooter, so I can't really replicate it once again. But let's disable half of the cores, leave the 3D cache ones, and see how it does. And we're back here getting a little bit higher FPS once again, 380s now. We never reached 390s previously even. So yeah, it's noticeably faster like this, but I mean, if you have a 240Hz monitor, you're gonna max it out either way. And once again, the 9800X 3D would be a little bit slower than what we're seeing right now, because the frequency on that CPU is a little bit lower, but it would still be a little bit faster than all of the cores enabled on this one. So for pure gaming, you should save a buck and go with that CPU. But if you want this CPU for a workstation, having all of the cores enabled will still give you very high FPS. Now it's S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. This one is extremely intensive, both on the GPU and CPU, and we're playing at 1080p with the 5090 to make the CPU the bottleneck once again. Epic settings, DLAA. Let's go. And well, here we have it. I'm gonna start counting the FPS. We're here in this settlement area, which is very demanding on the CPU, and you can see it's dropping into the 70s, having some stuttering issues as well. That's just the way of UE5. When it's terribly optimized, once again, the finals did run extremely buttery smoothly. Also, taking a look at the cores and threads on the right, you can see it's heavily utilizing our first CCD, but the second one is just idling there pretty much. But I did find that standing right here, looking in this direction, with the second CCD disabled, I was getting 90 FPS, and over here we're getting 85. So a little bit of a drop once again, if you're wondering. But yeah, most people will run it like this, so I'm just gonna keep on going. You know what, I should probably focus less in testing this CPU with half of its cores disabled, because nobody will do that, right? So yeah, it can still be a really awesome experience, obviously, here in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. I mean, this is 1080p resolution, but if you utilized 4K, it would also give you around the same FPS. But that's it, guys. That's the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 experience. Out here in the open areas and stuff, exploring, you can get high refresh rate experience, but inside of settlements, it will drop down into the 70s and 80s. Next is Apex Legends at 1080p using the maximum settings. And while dropping from the sky, we're getting 200 plus or 250 plus FPS, actually. This is kind of an insane experience. This game is locked to 300 frames, by the way, and apparently down here, that's what we get. So the CPU still has some headroom there, as does the GPU. It's just, yeah, we're limited by the game itself. Kind of crazy that we get 300 FPS. So I think this is kind of a useless test, guys, since it gets 300 FPS no matter what, right? Oh boy, oh. Yeah, it is useless. Let's move on. CPU is too fast for this one. Next up is Battlefield 2042. Oh my, okay, everything's all right. It's getting 300 FPS, guys. Damn, that's insane. 32 versus 32 players, okay, 64-player server. Also, all of the cores are enabled, as you can see here, 16 cores, 32 threads, and I couldn't really make the other program, the on-screen display, work in this title. But we're playing at 1080p, utilizing ultra settings, guys. And this is really insane performance coming from the 9950X 3D. It's actually faster in this one than my 9800X 3D. I remember that CPU peaking at, what, 300, maybe 290 or 280 FPS. This is constantly getting 300 plus on average. It drops a little bit sometimes, yeah, but I mean, it's pretty insane in this particular title. It's really good to see that, guys. Oh boy, there's a guy right here. Yeah, okay, we got him. But honestly, guys, I just feel a little itch of changing the resolution, you know, to 4K or something like that, because it will also be an absolutely flawless experience at that resolution, you know, with a 5090 and this CPU. I mean, it's awesome. You can see that the CPU utilization is only hovering around 40 to 50% most of the time, so it's only utilizing the 3DV cache cores, or the CCD with 3DV cache. But yeah, guys, it seems like in this particular title, even with all of the cores enabled, what the heck? Okay, oh, this house was full of enemies. But even with all of the cores enabled, it's still a little bit faster than the 9800X 3D. Next is GTA 5 Enhanced Edition, my friends. This one is being played at the 1080p resolution, utilizing maximum ray tracing as well as maximum settings with the DLAA and no motion blur. And guys, this game, especially with that ray tracing enabled, is extremely intensive, alright, on the CPU side of things especially. Even though it's an old title from 2013 on consoles and 2015 on PC, they released this Enhanced Edition now, and you can see that the CPU is being taxed a lot. It's getting 130 FPS, CPU bound all of the time. You can see the usages there on the right. Also, it doesn't seem to be allocating the 3DV cache cores properly, so it's using all of them randomly. That also lowers performance, of course. It's one of those cases where Windows is actually the culprit for lower performance. That sucks a lot, guys. guys, alright? So disabling the second CCD in this CPU would help it a lot in this title as well, and it would bump the FPS up to like 160 frames per second instead of the 130s on average that we're seeing right now. There's no problems there, it's just that performance could be a heck of a lot higher if it wasn't for Windows not properly allocating the cores and threads. Like, look at that. It's actually running the game on the second CCD at the moment. I'm gonna restart and see if it now allocates it to the other one. And guess what? It's exactly the same thing. Although one of the cores, Core 4, on the 3D Cache CCD, it actually is being utilized more than all of the others. So that's interesting, but yeah, mainly it's the second CCD that's being utilized right now. Let's see Jack though, because no benchmark is complete without seeing Jack, alright? So let's do that. I forgot to count our FPS as well this time around, by the way. And Jack, are you there? Yes, he is! Hello, Jack! Oh my goodness, almost ran you over. Everything's okay, my boy. Oh, I love you too. Okay. Also, can we kill Bob this time around? Because it's been a while, you know. Last time with a 4090, he wasn't here for some reason when I tested this game separately on that card, and he's not here again. Are you serious? I hate this, guys. This enhanced edition, you should play the Legacy version, because Bob is not here on enhanced, and then you can't kill the bastards. And here we have it, guys, now without that second CCD enabled. You can see that using the 3D Cache cores, it is definitely faster. Not 160 FPS, I thought it was going up to those values. It did at the beginning, but not anymore. It stays into the 140s, touching 150 FPS at times. So around 20 to 25 FPS faster than what we saw previously. But also, you can see that the frame time graph is more unstable at the same time. So yeah, that's because whenever the FPS are this high, it kind of breaks something in the game itself, and it starts acting up like that. So you're better off just locking your FPS, actually, if you want to play this game to like 120 frames per second and leave it there. So yeah, even though this is faster, and this would be faster with 9800X 3D than with the 9950X 3D with all of the cores enabled, I would still just leave them enabled, because, yeah, it's more unstable this way. Now, it's Hogwarts Legacy, guys. This is an extremely CPU-intensive title, and we're playing it at the 1080p resolution, DLEA, and the Ultra settings with Ultra Ray Tracing as well. And I'm glad to see that the 9950X 3D is actually capable of still providing a high refresh rate experience-ish. I guess it dropped into the 90s sometimes, but that's not too bad, actually. With my 9800X 3D, for some reason, I was getting down into the 60s and 70s. This is actually faster, but I think something is wrong with this particular title in that machine, so yeah, I'm not going to compare things, but you can see that it is utilizing the 3D Cache cores right now. The other ones are just idling there, so yeah, it actually makes for a really good experience here with this particular CPU, even with the ray tracing enabled. That's what's impressive here. No complaints in Hogwarts Legacy aside from the usual stuttering, but that's just because of the game itself and the Unreal Engine. Yes. And yeah, really flawless experience, or as flawless as it can get. And here we have Hogwarts Legacy now with half of its cores disabled, only utilizing the 3D Cache ones, and it is indeed quite a bit faster, guys. Not dropping into the 90s anymore, but still dropping into the lower 100s. It's a little bit more stable, I guess, as you can see, but it's not going to change your gaming experience, really, just like in the other games, or most of them at least. So you're still better off not touching that in this particular title. There's no need to disable the second CCD. Performance was totally great, even with that second CCD enabled. Oh, damn. Marvel Rivals is actually GPU bound even at 1080p with the 5090. Okay, that's nice. Well, I guess I'm just gonna use performance DLSS then to put less strain on GPU, and we're playing on ultra settings here. All right, and even then, we're getting 96% GPU utilization. What? I did not see that coming. I thought we were going to be way more CPU bound here. It's 1080p after all on a 5090, you know? So really fast CPU for Marvel Rivals, even on ultra settings with that Lumen enabled and stuff. However, as soon as you hop into a little bit of a team fight here, GPU usage starts to drop, so we're back to being CPU bound. And we're getting around 190 to 200 frames per second right here, 200 plus sometimes. So there's that. Obviously, if you are competitive at this game, you'll likely play on low settings. So let's test that out. And here we have it, up to 400 FPS, looking in that direction. Damn. But it still does drop into the 200s. Obviously, it's going to be a pretty flawless experience, guys. It's high refresh rate all the way. You'll likely have at least a 1440p monitor, I think, for gaming with this. And those are widely available at 240 Hz with great prices. And, well, yeah, this will do absolutely fine at maxing out one of those monitors. And here we have the appropriately named Stutter Night. Look at the frame time graph. Oh boy. Anyway, this one is being played at 1080p DirectX 12 epic settings, alright, which means Lumen is enabled, which is ray tracing, and hardware ray tracing is also turned on. And it seems like the GPU is fluctuating there, but it's close to being maxed out sometimes when it's not a stuttery mess. But this is an interesting one because when I jump off of this buzz, you can see the CPU utilization going up by quite a lot sometimes. Yeah, going over 50%, 69% right there. Nice. Just for a second though, and while it's loading, look at that, 95% CPU usage. So it is actually sometimes loading up all of the cores here in this title, but I guess that happens only while jumping off of the buzz and going down here, loading the map, you know, for the first time, and then it's actually it's usually playable. What? Seriously? What is this? Oh boy, a lot of people just disconnected there because of that stutter. I think it was server related, guys. Damn, that's crazy. After everything is loaded up and running, you can see it is actually handling it like a champ, 130 frames per second, 120s on maximum settings, which is pretty impressive. Also, since it is kind of GPU bound most of the time, I'm going to use DLSS performance to lower that GPU utilization and reach the limits of the CPU here. And even then, it's still above 90% GPU utilization, but as you can see, the 9950X 3D still has a lot of headroom there. It's going up into the 170s now, even with all of the bells and whistles enabled in terms of graphical quality, right? Like, this is pretty insane, actually. Now, can we make it worse? I'm going to set the 3D resolution down to, what, like 5% if I can? I actually can. So this way, it is actually CPU bound. Finally, we're reaching the limits of the 9950X 3D. This is what's needed, guys. All right. It's insane that they actually allow you to do this. Previously, when I tested GT710s and stuff like that in this game years ago, I needed to go into the config files to do this. Now you can do it inside of the game. Just like that. It's so easy. It's so beautiful. Oh, yes. Holy guys, this is Forza Horizon 5. Look at those FPS. Jesus, 400 plus frames per second. Unfortunately, I can't get the other monitoring tool to show up, the other on-screen display, but let's take a look at the task manager. You can see that it actually utilizes the 3D cache cores. It's the first CCD over there, so that's great. And going over the settings, we're using 1080p resolution with TAA and high settings, because on extreme settings, I was seeing 99% GPU utilization all of the time, so yeah, even with like 280, 300 FPS, it was still GPU bound. This game is actually capped to 500 frames per second, by the way, so we're closing in on the FPS cap of Forza Horizon 5. These are some insane results here. Holy crap. Let's take a look at the back, please. Thank you. This is a little bit janky with the mouse controls, but yeah, not a problem. Dropping into the 300s. Okay, now we're close to the city. I'm gonna start the FPS counter again. This is insane, guys. Still only dropping into the low 360s, I get, like 362 or something. It's still achieving 400s inside of the big city. I thought it was going to become way more CPU bound here, but Yeah, this game is no match for the 9950X 3D. It is insane. Holy crap. Worst case scenario is right now, and it drops to the low 300s. Perfect. This is perfect. Alright guys, it is conclusion time, and I'll still have some more games running right here as usual while we talk a little bit about the Ryzen 9 9950X 3D and who it is for. So as you saw, this CPU is an absolute beast. It's a great all-rounder for super intensive multi-core workloads, but also a great gaming chip. Although for pure gaming performance, a single CCD with 3DV cache is still the way to go. I would love to have seen what a 16-core CPU with 3DV cache in all of the cores would be able to do though. I guess the higher latency between the CCDs would still be a little bit of an issue, so 9800X 3D would probably still be slightly faster in some scenarios, but it would be interesting to see, maybe next generation. It would be innovation. I would like to have seen that. This is very similar to what we had previous generation, the 7950X 3D, although it has some very good multi-core performance and single-core performance improvements compared to last generation, but I keep dreaming of the day when we'll have like a 12-core CPU in a single CCD with 3DV cache. Oh yes, but that's just a dream for now, of course. But also guys, if you decide to disable the second CCD or use like Project Lasso, I think that works as well, although I haven't really looked into it, but you guys have told me that this will surpass the 9800X 3D's performance, and you'll have a spare CPU, basically an extra 8 core for all of the other tasks. Like if you're streaming, for example, you could be playing the games on the 8 core 9800X 3D with faster frequencies, you know, the first half of this CPU, and then run the streaming programs and stuff like that on the second CCD, and that would just be amazing to have all of that in a single processor. But if you want to just play games, again, 9800X 3D will be the better option because, well, it will be slightly faster in most games. You won't really have to deal with Windows being a little bit dumb and not handling this right, you know, or the games themselves as well. But anyways, that's about it, guys. If you are after some really, really good performance, both for productivity and gaming at the same time, 9950X 3D is a beast of a CPU. Now let's wait and see if it will actually come at MSRP or if it will be like the 9800X 3D with inflated prices and all of the recent GPUs as well. I don't even know how much this will cost in Europe, but probably a lot. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, I love you all. Bye-bye.